Good morning. I welcome back class 8 students to its new video, and this video is for class 8 for English 2. Today I have a new lesson number 10, which deals with verbs revision. Verbs revision. My dear students, since lesson number 6 we have been talking about verbs as finite and non-finite, verbs modal, verbs in different tense forms, verbs main and auxiliaries, etc., etc. And similarly, today we have a new lesson number 10, verbs revision. My dear students, you are getting benefit through such videos, and I do believe you are just preparing for the examination and you are reading the book, and please do study well and just to be ready for the exam. Anyway, without wasting time, let's begin this lesson. Explanation will be given as usual. So dear students, first thing to know about verbs and I know each of you have concept knowledge about verbs, because verb is very common word which has been being used by us, and even the small class students also have ideas on this word verbs. Anyway, let me tell you, verbs actually it is defined as action words or doing words. This is very simple. This one is very simple definition of verb: action words or doing words. But my dear students, being class 8 students, you just try to learn some standard definition of this word. And the standard definition means verbs means those words which express any actions, okay, where physical performance or physical activities are always involved. So those words are called verbs. For example, I go to the market. You see, I go to the market. While going, physical performance is required there. We have to walk or we have to cycle, ride a cycle. Anyway, we must perform some physical activity for that. So this is a purely a verb where physical activity is involved. Similarly, watching, you see, now you are watching the movie. You can see this one, that physical performance is involved. So eating, sitting, playing, running, lot of verbs are there where physical performance is must. So those actions are called verbs. And as you know, I am just defining you. We can define these verbs in by taking 2 points. Okay, one is that verbs means those words which express any physical activity or any physical action. On the other hand, verbs means those words which may have or may not have an object, or which may or may not be affected by the action of the sentence. Okay, see, verbs means those words which may or may not have an object. Based on this also we can define verbs, okay, which may or may not have an object. You should know this point, or which is being affected by the action or not. Based on this also verbs are defined. May or may not have object means to say those verbs which have object called transitive. Those verbs which do not have object are called intransitive verbs. So these two are the points. Okay, while talking the verb, we must remember these 2 points. I am just reminding you again. Verbs means those words which express any action. Okay, which express any action. And the next point, verbs means those words which may or may not have an object, or which is being affected by the action. Okay, so based on these 2 points, we need to try to define verbs. And A good number of examples are also given in the book. While going through the book, you please check this whole thing. And in the next point, you are given about action and state verbs. My dear students, action verbs, the name itself tells us those words, those verbs where physical activity or physical actions are involved. What we have just said, okay, these all are action verbs. But the main point is to know about state verbs. Please make your idea clear, make your concept clear on this state verbs. State verbs means also verbs, but these are little bit different type of verbs, okay, than action verbs. So how this is? So action verbs means, you see, those verbs, okay, where physical actions are not involved. It means to say these are the verbs connected to the things which are not actions. My dear student, try to understand. Action means we are talking about physical actions where we have to perform some activity. So state verbs are those verbs where which are connected to those things which are not actually actions. Okay. Besides, these verbs or state verbs, okay, talk about our opinion, our senses, our emotions, okay, our emotions, our feelings, like this. For example, you see, think. This thing you can see. Think is our what? Think is not an, it's not what called an action verb. While saying think, it's being talking about our sense. Okay. Believe, this is our opinion. Believe, when you say believe, will you perform any physical activity? Will you run or will you do something? No, you just you just can sit somewhere and you just do that action. Believe, okay. Hate, no, okay. These are the words. That's why it said state verbs are those verbs which are connected to the things which are not actually actions. Actions means not actually physical actions, like this. So you may have a little bit problem, but please go through the book and I do believe it will be clear. I am just making to make it clear, my level best, and you also try to understand. So action verbs means those words which express any actions where physical activities are involved, and state verbs are those words which are not connected to the actions or which are not connected to the physical actions, but they talk about some opinions, feelings, emotions, okay, senses, like think, know, okay, hate, love, etc. So my dear students, you have understood it well. And the next thing to talk about about transitive and intransitive verb. This is also one of the key point of the lesson. And I have already told you, based on having and not having objects, verbs are categorized into forms. One is transitive and another one is intransitive verb. So very simple to know. Transitive verbs means those words which must require object to complete their meaning, and intransitive verbs means those words or those verbs which do not require object to complete its meaning. Okay. So transitive verbs with object. For example, I read. Okay, it's not complete actually. You can just say I read. You think it is complete sentence, but grammatically it's not a complete sentence, because when you say I read, even if you put full stop there, but it can be asked the question, I read, something is missing there. I read, but what? It must be a magazine, it must be a book, any article. I read, that means that is hidden. Without this, grammatically this lesson is considered not to be this sentence is considered not to be a complete sentence. That is why read is a transitive verb. Object is must there. So I read book, I play football. Okay, like this. And intransitive verbs means where objects are not recurred. For example, the dogs bark. You can say how. Loudly. Loudly is not a what call this, not an object. Loudly is and just what? Adverb. So the dog barks. So bark is intransitive verb. This it can complete its meaning without object also. The dogs bark. Okay. So lots of words we find which are transitive. Some are transitive, some are intransitive. But students, some words are always used as transitive verbs. For example, lose, want, receive, okay, read, eat, etc. But some other words are always used in as intransitive verbs. For example, happen, wait, arrive, rise, leave, etc. And check the book, you will understand. I believe this. And now the last key point of the lesson is about verbs with more than one object. Dear students, you have already come to know with object it is called transitive verb. But such transitive verbs sometimes may have a double object, means more than one object. Okay, in that case, one is called direct object and another object is called indirect object. But which one is called direct object, which one is called indirect? How to know this thing? If there are more than one object in a sentence, then it may be questioned in your in the examination. What is called direct object? Give examples. Or what is called an indirect object? Please give example. So I am just telling you. You see, direct object means those objects which are directly affected by the action of the verb. Remember the point. Try to understand. Try to catch the point. A direct object means those those objects which are directly affected by the action of the verbs. For example, I gave him a book. I gave him a book. Two objects here, okay? I gave him. Let's have the sentence up to him. I gave him. So here him is directly affected by the action of the verb gave. I gave. To whom? To him. So him is directly affected by this verb gave. So him is a direct object. Okay. On the other hand, indirect object means those objects which are affected by the action of the direct object. Which are affected by the action of the direct object. For example, the same example we can have. I gave him. But this time I am adding a book. So I gave him a book. You see, him, it was direct object, but him, what? A book. This a book is affected by this him, which is a direct object. That's why a book is an indirect object. So dear students, direct object means those objects which are directly affected by the action of the verb. On the other hand, indirect object means those objects which are affected by the direct object. So this is the main point, a difference between these two. Lot of example we can have and given in the book also. And my dear students, please always read the book with full concentration and just watch this video and just pause if you don't understand, and just pause and just go back and again watch and just try to clear this point. And I do believe, since you are in class 8, so you are grown up, so you can understand these things, or you just can think which is wrong, which is right. So please read the book. So I have tried my level best to make you know through these videos about the main points of this lesson number 10, verbs. And at the end, I would just like to remind you the main points which we have come through. First one is the definition of the verb and the difference between action verb and state verbs and their definitions. And then we had transitive verb and intransitive verb. And then finally we had verb with more than one object, means direct object and indirect object. So my dear students, these are the main points, and please read the book and read the given examples and try to clear everything. So I hope you have understood it, and I hope you do watch this video till the end. And as usual, you will be getting rest other answers of the lesson soon. And please, if homework is given, please try to do and try to show me. And if you have any queries, any doubt on this chapter, then please your WhatsApp or just contact me. I will be available always. So that's it. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.